Fellow teachers of Reddit, watch something your students have said that required all of your strength to not hit them. One thing that a lot of non-teachers don't realize is that there are plenty of kids who judge themselves based on how they've tormented teachers. Even adults still fondly remember that time they made that teacher cry. TV shows show the kids teaching that teacher a lesson for doing their job. So these kids get up in the morning planning for how they'll annoy you. Most kids I taught were fine, but there was one who stood out. We'll call him Jay. He thought he was the best thing ever to happen to this planet, and he expected teachers to worship him. So to start with, he learned my first name, and began shouting it across the playground. Then he'd only do it once it turned the corner. Irritating this was, but easily dealt with. Then the actual torment began. He would steal other students' bus passes and slide them underneath my classroom door so I'd have to go and unlock it so they could get home. He tracked my timetable and began doing it when I was teaching in a different room, anything to cause me maximum disruption. He got another teacher to let himself into my classroom saying I'd asked him to get something. He then stole the smallest of my Russian bells I had in display, and the keys off my keyboard, but only ones which spelled out my name. He set off the fire alarm, because he knew I was doing speaking exams and it would disrupt me. This doesn't include his in-class behavior. Here's where it got crazy. One day I found him at break time with a glass and box of matches. He was catching spiders to set fire to them to hear them scream. The next week, as I was leaving the school, he stood in front of my car so I couldn't leave. I opened the window to tell him to move and he put his arm through it and held in again to stop me leaving. Deputy had removed him. But after that I found him inside the school. He had trapped a bird and was throwing stones at it to kill it. School did nothing. 2 weeks later I was leaving school again. He runs up, opens the door and gets into my car. We had to call the police to remove him. His parents thought it was funny. I don't know what happened to him, but I'd say that was the closest. I had a Fording my/O student who was dealing with some tough issues with his dad. This kid would spend one weekend with his mom, the next with his dad. He always looked forward to the weekends with his mom, and would refuse to go home on Fridays, when he'd have to go to his dad's house. He would come into school, after the weekend spent at his dad's house and tell me, and only me, about some of the horrors that went on over the weekend. The things he told me were bad enough that I had to call DCFS 3 times in the course of 2 months. I sat with a DCFS officer and outlined what he told me in excruciating detail. I checked in with his school counselor every day. I checked in with him every single morning. I was even requested to appear in court by his mom to testify on the kid's behalf. I wasn't allowed to go, as I was not symptomatic, but I would have gone if I were allowed to. I literally bent over backwards to make sure this kid would still be alive to come to my class in the Mondays after spending the weekend at his dad's house. The thing that he said that made me want to smack some sense into him: "You don't care about me." I'm sorry this happened to you. Teenagers can be so self-centered in their clumsy attempts to feel powerful. Remember, the people who are supposed to be the most important people in his life were giving him no/terrible examples of how to behave or show appreciation. If there is anything I remember feeling so distinctly at that age, it was shocked at how people would be sensitive about statements that my parents gave zero fucks about. When I was a kid, I dealt with a lot of emotional neglect from my parents, and physical and psychological abuse from my mom, when she was present enough to do so. I remember once saying something like what that kid said to you, to another adult, when I was so frustrated about everything and feeling unheard. I think I did it unconsciously, because I wanted to see how a normal adult reacts to what I was saying, because when I said things like that to my own parents and their reactions were either non-reaction or angrily confirming what I had just said, it hurt me on a deep level and really affected how I viewed the world, and it felt so wrong that it couldn't be right. When the adult was visibly outraged and I could tell their opinion of me was changing, it actually felt good to know that what my parents were doing to us wasn't normal. They would always reference how people in general did things or thought of things to normalize what they were doing. Sometimes in that clumsy attempt to see if words still have power, you hurt people close to you who don't deserve to be caught in the crossfire. I'm almost 30 and I still think about how different things could have been if I'd been raised the way my friends now say things were for them. Edit. Sorry, one more thought. I guess I got a little triggered by this. He might have been pushing you away because the situation felt so chaotic and helpless. I didn't realize I did this until during one breakup in my early 20s. I said you don't love me and they said, you don't get to decide that for me. I do love you, but you don't think I should. First year teaching at 22 and I taught 6th grade. Two instances come to mind. One kid told me outright he didn't respect me simply because I was younger than the other 6th grade teachers. After a year of trying to corral my 6th graders, I took them outside for class for a day after to start tests and we started a novel study in a book I was really excited to share with them, Among the Hidden. They complained the entire time about how hot it was in the shade, how the book we were reading was boring and that they wanted to go back inside. I took them back in because I couldn't take it anymore and told them honestly how upset I was with their constant complaining the entire year and that I was just trying to do something for them that they had been asking all year to do, when one kid just said in front of the entire class that, since I hated them so much and clearly hated my job, that I should quit, because it would make everyone happier. I told him to leave the room and go somewhere, anywhere. I just couldn't look at his face anymore, and then silently started crying at my desk. 6th grade was a year in hell. I was a student who witnessed another student do this to my rugby coach. My rugby coach is one of the best teachers in the school and seriously made learning science fun. Well, my rugby coach did some volunteer work teaching African kids. One of the African kids made a handmade ruler for him by hand. Well, a dumb burnout student asked to borrow a ruler and the teacher gave him that special ruler to use and said specifically, be careful, that ruler is important to me. The burnout straight up broke the ruler into 4 fucking pieces. The teacher wasn't mad, he was heartbroken. I still think about it sometimes. Not me, but my dad is a middle school teacher. There was this 8th grader, a real boss, who was short and had a severe Napoleon syndrome, who was the terror of the class. Well, my dad tried disciplining him one day and this kid walked right up to my dad, stood directly on top of his feet and said, my parents pay taxes, so that means they are your boss. You can't do shit to me. Well, long story short, my dad could do something, and that something was fireman carried the little prick down to the office and set him in the chair outside the principal's office. Edit. Napoleon syndrome. Not a syndrome where the kid craves a multi-flavored ice cream Hannah. This incident stopped me going on with my teacher's degree due to how all the other staff would deal with the child, and others that were difficult. I was working supervising 11 to 15-year-olds in school library and linked computer space. Students would come down from class with a slip from teacher saying they could be there. In this day, this lad was there and was the center of a chaotic gathering of hormonal teenagers and distracting people. He was not on my expected class list and nor could he produce a slip. Now this lad was big, taller than me. I am 5 feet 5, broad, and a sports person. I asked him to leave and get a slip and he got suddenly quite aggressive, shouting that he had one and it was on the desk, which I checked but it was not there. He then squared up to me, looming over me nose to nose almost, and I calmly asked him to leave, without backing away or shouting back, just authoritative but dear God, I wanted to push him away. He stormed out muttering under his breath, but a while later turned up with his lip and we nodded at each other and I let him get on with it. Later on, I think a couple of days later, I was supervising over lunch and it was starting to kick off, teenagers being teenagers and all that, and I wondered over had said to the group to calm down or get out, so others could enjoy being there. The same lad typed up and something along the lines of don't mess with Miss, she's cool, a proud moment for me. This lad, as a refugee, he had witnessed at least one of his family murdered when he was younger. This kid had seen some shit and had some behavior issues because of it. The other teachers and the head librarian just had no clue how to handle people like him, so it was generally shouting matches and suspensions or quiet rooms, not seclusion. They were not that brutal/stupid. They were the same with other kids with clear autistic and other spectrum issues. The whole thing just left a bad taste for me, so I walked away. In a lighter note, I was asked in after-school computer club what sort of music I liked. The kids were already fascinated that I enjoyed Robot Wars and watched Buffy and Doctor Who, and I introduced some of them to books they didn't realize were there. Got one kid reading Asimov. Anyway, talking about music, I said that I was a bit of a hippie because I like Led Zeppelin, yes, and others, and left it at that. A few days later another kid asked me the same question, and the first kid who asked, I fucking said, oh I know, she is a hippie, she likes hip-hop. Alex, if you are on Reddit, this was one of the best comedic moments when I was doing that job. Thank you for your innocent misunderstanding. It wasn't something they said. It was something they did. This was a 6th grade student, and I was doing my usual, standing by the door and welcoming students in. This kid, I'll call him Jimmy, comes bouncing up from the direction of the bathroom. I asked whether he washed his hands and gave my best teacher eye for honesty. He answers, yep, really enthusiastically and with this big grin. In retrospect, I should have recognized that grin as his mischievous grin. I've seen that grin many times when he's inflicting his hijinks in other classmates. Jimmy had perfectly straight, glowingly white teeth, and the corners of his mouth went ear to ear like the Cheshire Cat when he was feeling English. But I didn't recognize it, and I lifted my hand to high-five him as he entered the room. He had washed his hands all right, and I felt a fine mist of sink water jettison from his hand into my face as our hands collided. To further evidence just how wet his hands were, he left a hand-shaped streak of wet on a desk that he touched as he continued into his seat. Well played, you little turd. Well played. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more amazing content.